afternoon, good night, good evening, wherever you are, and welcome all to this NYU Stern session at MBA Spotlight. My name is Fernando, and I'm your host. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Mila, the Assistant Director for MBA Admissions at NYU Stern. And for this session, we will begin with a quick overview of the full-time MBA program and some critical information that we believe you should know to be successful in your applications. After this brief presentation, we will open it up for Q&A, and we will do our best to have the team answer as many questions as possible. For everyone in the audience, it's worth to know that we have two ways for you to engage. So you can look at your screen on the right, and there is a chat tab where you can just talk to each other, talk to the session, and the Q&A tab. This Q&A tab is where you should be posting your questions, and you can also upvote other questions that you want to see answered. In addition to this session, you all will have an opportunity to connect with current NYU Stern students, and for that, you can come back today at 2 p.m. Eastern time to talk to them at the booth area. So without further ado, I will now turn it over to you, Mila.
Thank you so much, Fernando, and thank you everyone for being here today and taking time out of your busy lives to learn a little bit about NYU Stern. As Fernando said, my name is Mila Barsdukis. I'm an Assistant Director of MBA Admissions here in the office at Stern. I've been at Stern now for about 3 years, and so it's been one of my favorite parts of my job is interacting with all of you, helping you along with your MBA journeys. And I just hope that you find this session helpful and that I can be a resource for you moving forward. I have about 3 slides prepared to just talk a little bit about the basics and what you can expect at NYU Stern. And then I really plan to spend the majority of the session answering your questions. I know you are all coming into this space with things on your mind, and I want to make sure we get as many of those answered as possible. So really quickly, hopping into my slides here, 2 things for you to think about as you're going on your MBA journey. I think is who are you going to be attending your MBA with? Who are the people that you're going to be surrounded with? And what's your life going to look like after the MBA, right? Every MBA institution you attend will probably offer some combination of accounting and finance and marketing. And so it's important for you to make sure that you're in a community, you're in an environment where you feel like you can grow into your best self and be professionally ready for the next steps. The 2 ways that we differentiate ourselves and what we try to cultivate in our student body is these 2 slogans. So the first one is change, dare it, dream it, drive it. And the second one is IQ plus EQ. So change was a slogan that we initiated actually before the pandemic. I think by being located in New York City, being located in downtown Manhattan, where there's a lot happening all the time, we want to make sure that our graduates are ready to make differences at the companies that they join right away and are also comfortable with being uncomfortable. We really push our students to look at their areas of strength and leverage those, but also identify some areas of growth and try and improve those. And so with that change slogan, we really push our students to being comfortable with change, but also, changing their trajectory as they're at Stern. And this takes the form in a lot of different ways. It can be through our 27 specializations. You can specialize in up to 3 areas. It can be through our experiential learning opportunities. Obviously, being in New York City, we're around a lot of companies, and a lot of companies will actually reach out to us and come and work with us and our students on real life problems. And so being able to get some experience working with a company you're interested in, working in an industry you're interested in, that's what's going to set you up to be able to make change at your full-time role. Our second slogan is IQ plus EQ, and this is kind of how we take an admissions lens to our student body. And it's also, I think, just the way that our Sternies approach each other, approach their group projects, and approach the MBA experience. So Obviously, we are a very rigorous MBA program, and we're looking to bring in the academically best and brightest. But we also want to make sure we're bringing in folks that are in alignment with our core values, right? So being able to work with folks that are different from yourself, having resilience and grit, being collaborative, being supportive of each other. When students graduate from Stern, I think if you were to ask them their favorite part of their MBA experience, they're going to say the people. And EQ is a big part of that, right? At the end of the day, when you're doing a group project, you want to make sure you're doing it with folks that, are on the same page and are going to go out of their way to help you. And if you're experiencing issues during the MBA, you want to make sure you have a supportive community. And so as we read applications, we are looking at that IQ piece, right? So making sure you're academically prepared, but we're also looking at, how you're going to approach your classes, how you're going to approach recruiting. We have a large culture of mentorship at Stern. So especially for our 2-year MBA program, when our second-year MBAs come back to campus, they do a lot of mentoring of our first-year MBAs, especially as, they might be recruiting for an industry like consulting or banking, something that they might be new to. And so our MBA 2s spend a lot of time mentoring our MBA 1s through casing, mock interviews, resume reviews. They're the ones that are helping bring alumni to campus. And that just wouldn't be possible without that EQ culture piece. It's easy to get a return offer that after that summer internship and just sit back and enjoy. But I find like our Sternies really go out of their way to help each other and continue contributing to the community long after their post-MBA journey has been settled. So these are kind of 2 things to think about when you're looking at Stern. The other piece I wanted to touch on is just the offerings of programs that we have. So we offer 3 different full-time MBA programs here at Stern. One is a 2-year full-time MBA. We have an Andre Ku Tech MBA and a fashion and luxury MBA. So the 2-year full-time MBA is what you would probably consider to be your traditional MBA program. You spend that first year taking your core classes. We have a menu core, so you can take, you pick 5 of 7 options for your core classes. So if you're absolutely nervous about corporate finance, we're not going to force you to take it, but thinking about that change piece, right? Making sure that, you're working to build your skills. We also will work with you to kind of help you identify what core classes you probably would want to take and get out of at Stern. You then leave us for your summer internship, and then you return as an MBA 2 in the fall of your second year. And that's when you can really start diving into our electives, more of our experiential learning opportunities, and our specializations as well. Our Andre Ku Tech MBA and our Fashion and Luxury MBA are both 1-year MBA programs, and they run from May to May. And the reason these programs are a little more accelerated is because of the industries that they're designed around. So we found that obviously technology is moving very, very quickly. And in the luxury, fashion, retail industries, you can obviously, with both of these industries, you can take 2 years and do the traditional MBA, but they're really designed for folks that know that that's the industry they want to enter and stay in. And so they don't need as much time and flexibility that the 2-year MBA gives to do some soul searching. They know their industry. They maybe are just, thinking about what function, what company they want to join, things like that. I should also note all 3 of these programs have access to the same student clubs. They have access to a lot of the same experiential learning opportunities. The core classes are very, very similar. I would just say that those 2 focused MBAs, the 1-year programs, your curriculum's a little bit more lockstep because you only have 3 semesters with us. And we want to make sure that you have the time to take all the classes that you need to take to graduate before we send you on your way. And so the last piece that I wanted to plug for you today is just ways to learn more about Stern. I think one of the best ways to get to know a community is by talking to as many people as possible. And obviously this is in this format, it's a little harder for us to chat with each other. So I would say if you're interested in speaking with someone like me, a member of the admissions team, I would use the purple box. So our Stern MBA email is the kind of like best way to contact a member of our admissions team. You can also call our number. We're open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern every weekday. If you want to speak to a student, you can attend the networking session at 2 p.m. today. One of our graduate students, Alex, will be there. You're also welcome to email our graduate ambassadors and set up some time to chat or attend one of those events. And I would use that right salmon pink box to contact them. If you're just curious about our offerings at Stern and our different experiential learning opportunities, things like that, you're always welcome to visit our website at that teal, or I guess that blue box in the middle of the screen. We have a very big website, and obviously Stern is a very large school with a large community. And so it's always fun to kind of go exploring on our website and seeing what we have to offer. With that being said, you have a little bit of an idea of what the culture of Stern is like and what the community is like. You know a little bit now about our MBA programs. And obviously, if I don't get to your question today, you're welcome to contact me or contact a member of our team through these resources. At this point, I'm going to go and turn things over to the Q&A. I want to make sure that we have as much time to chat as possible. And so the way I'm going to go about doing this is I'm going to click on that Q&A button. And as you, if you have a question, please ask it. If you like someone else's question, please upvote it. I'm going to start at the top and just work my way down. If that's the best way to do it, you think, Fernando?
Yes, absolutely. Just let me know if you'd like me to put the questions here and read it out loud for you. That works as well. So whatever you prefer.
Why don't we do that? Just so I'm not talking everyone's ear off.
Sure. Perfect. And I do have to say, Mila, that I love those New York City pictures. Every time that I see them, I say, oh my God, such a beautiful city.
We're very, very lucky.
So one of the questions that we have here, this one is from Hitika. What are certain differentiators you look for in applications of candidates from an overrepresented group?
That is a great question. I think the first thing I would say for folks interested in applying to Stern is thinking about those application lenses that we're looking at, right? Like the IQ and the EQ piece of the application. We really do look at those together. We don't have minimum or maximum GPAs or scores to apply to Stern. We do a holistic review process. And for candidates, regardless of your background, we want you to have a clear message of why the MBA makes sense for you, why it makes sense for you right now, and how Stern can uniquely help you get there. So as you're going through your MBA journey, figuring out where to apply to, completing your applications, sell yourself in the application and explain in detail like what resources you're going to take advantage of Stern. Has this person done their research on Stern? Do they have a clear idea of what their journey is going to look like? I'm not going to be hunting you down at graduation and saying, you said you were going to specialize in this and you didn't. It's not going to be like that. But when I'm reading an application, I really like to picture what that person's journey is going to be like. And if they can kind of fill in as many of those blanks for me as possible, that tends to be a pretty strong application.
Thank you, Mila. Going to the next question. That's from Sujai. Hi, I wanted to know if there are any test waivers available.
Great question. So for our last few years, we have offered opportunities for test waivers for our 2-year full-time MBA and our fashion and luxury MBA. So we usually, that application to apply for a test waiver will open at the same time as the actual MBA application, which I would say join our mailing list if you haven't, because it's going to be opening sooner rather than later. Basically, the way you apply for a test waiver is you submit your transcripts, no need to convert anything, and your resume. The test at the end of the day is a way for us to determine if you are academically ready for Stern. And you might be able to demonstrate that in other ways. Maybe you had a really rigorous undergraduate degree. Maybe you do rigorous quantitative work in your current job. So we just kind of use, like, if you don't have the time to study for a test, obviously testing is expensive as well. So we give out test waivers pretty frequently, and to folks that, are able to demonstrate that academic readiness in other ways. On the flip side of that, I would also just say, if undergrad was a long time ago for you, or maybe you're undergraduate degree is not reflective of your current academic preparedness now, the standardized test is really just another data point for you to strengthen your application. So if you submit multiple test scores to us, we're only going to look at the strongest one. If you submit multiple test types to us, we're going to look at the one that aids your candidacy. And the Tech MBA has been test optional the last couple of cycles.
Going to the next question, we got it from Vijaya Lakshmi. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm sorry if I'm not. NYU's essays are way different from other schools. What do you have to highlight more? Professional achievements, personal achievements, or values they might believe in?
Ooh, this is such a good question. Yes, our essays are pretty different from the other schools, and I'll just give a brief overview on our 3 essays. So the first one is our goals essay. So that's a really simple question. It's where do you see yourself directly after the MBA, and what is your plan to get there? So what industry are you looking to go into? What function? Maybe some example companies you want to go to. You can be as specific or as broad as you like, but what we're really looking for here is that more professional side. So where do you see yourself professionally? The second essay is our change essay. And I don't have the exact prompt off the top of my head, but what we're really looking for is you demonstrating how you approach change. And that can be in a bunch of different ways. That can be through maybe you experienced a professional setback or problem at work, and how did you kind of change yourself, change your mindset to overcome that? How are you going to bring change to Stern? Are you going to start a new club? Are you going to, be a real mentor for students? Where are you going to get involved? So you can kind of do a little bit of professional achievements and personal achievements for the change essay, but the real piece that we're looking for is how are you going to showcase your comfort with change, your willingness to change, and how you're going to be a change maker in the business space, right? Our last essay is our Pick 6 essay. That's where we ask you to submit 6 images and 1-sentence captions. And this, I would say, is a lot more aligned with the personal values, our alignment with Stern core values. This is your chance to have fun and to just give us information that maybe we couldn't get from the rest of your application. So examples of great Pick 6s I've seen have been folks, putting members of their family and talking about how they've impacted them, photos of pets, photos of shoes, places they've traveled to. Maybe folks are camera shy, and I've seen 6 emojis, and folks have explained why they use, these are my 6 most used emojis, and this is why they're used so often. Some folks go completely random and there's no giant theme. It's just 6 images that they feel showcase their personality and who they are outside of, your day-to-day work. And it's just another way that we're looking at our EQ piece and seeing how you would kind of fit in the Stern community.
That sounds great. Thank you, Mila, once again, and thank you to the almost 300 people that we have here watching us. Please feel free to keep the questions coming.
Yes,
so
please.
The next one that we have is one from Nitash. So NYU Stern is located in the heart of New York City, a hub for innovation and business. So how does Stern leverage its location to provide unique opportunities for students to connect with industry leaders and gain real-world experience?
This is a great question. Obviously, being in New York City, one of, I think, my favorite things about living and working in New York City is the city is not dominated by one industry. You do have Wall Street, but we also have a thriving entertainment industry, right? We have Broadway, HBO is headquartered here. A lot of tech companies have offices here. Google is, a walking distance from NYU Stern. We also have, some of the most prestigious luxury and retail companies in the world. And so what we try and do for our students is we try and make sure, one, that our students are visiting those companies on their campuses, but also it's so easy for these companies to come to Stern during lunch for a coffee chat, for a corporate presentation. And so our careers team works very, very closely with our company partners, and companies will come and recruit exclusively at Stern For them, it sweetens the deal that they only have to hop on the subway or hop in a cab to get to us. In terms of the academic offerings, we really pride ourselves in our menu of experiential learning opportunities. So those are spaces where, as a student, you will be working on a real world problem for a real world company. And so that can take a form in many ways. For example, in our FinTech experiential learning program, you and maybe a couple peers will be paired with a fintech company or a company that's trying to solve a fintech problem, and you will be working directly with that company to suggest a solution for that problem that they're facing. It's very similar for Stern Consulting Core. You get to kind of practice being a consultant for a semester or a year. And I think the reason our experiential learning opportunities are so popular is because students actually get to go on site and visit the companies that they're working with, speak with them in person, speak with them directly. And that only can happen with our location. So we also, our students like to have fun. They love to explore New York City. They do a lot of bonding activities in and around campus. And so I think, it's almost like the phrase is escaping me, but it's New York City is like a part of the community for us as well.
So going to the next question, we got one here from Salim. And the question is, what is the weightage given to the following factors during evaluation? 1, GMAT, 2, demographics, 3, academic background, 4, professional work experience, 5, applications and essays, and 6, recommendation letter.
This is a really great question. And unfortunately, I'm going to answer with a bit of a non-answer because there is no real weightage or formula that we follow when we're reading applications. So we do evaluate everything holistically. So if you are submitting something with your application, whether it's an optional essay, an extra test score, a certification you took, or a description of a work experience, we will read it and we will incorporate it into our decision. So there is there's no like secret sauce of, or a formula you need to follow as you complete your application. I would say the biggest piece is thinking about those questions I spoke at the beginning. Why the MBA? Why right now? And what is your Stern experience going to look like? If you're very clear with those, and those are kind of maybe aligned with your professional background, aligned with your academic background, or you have a clear case for why you're making a pivot, those tend to be the stronger applications that we read.
So I went on mute, then off mute. Now I think I'm here. The next question that we have here is from Ishan. And then he asked, how does NYU see the current GMAT Focus Edition score in comparison with GMAT Classic? How will the upcoming percentile change in the third quarter affect our current GMAT Focus score? And here he provides an example of that.
Got it. So I would say in terms of testing, obviously the GMAT is in the process, or I guess has already kind of, changed their scoring system and the way they're testing. And we are very familiar with that system. I would also say that, we accept a wide variety of tests. So we accept any of the GMAT tests, the GRE, the executive assessment. If you wanted to be a dentist or a doctor or a lawyer in a past life, we accept the American entrance exams for those industries as well. The biggest piece is making sure that you're taking the test that you think you're going to do the strongest on. And so for some folks that maybe took a GMAT Classic test and did very well on that, as long as the score is valid, you're totally welcome to submit that. We are basically just kind of looking at the way that that GMAT has kind of scored the exam and just kind of like aligning those scores with what we've seen in the past. And I know because this is the first year where there's different types of GMATs that folks are taking, we're putting our heads together and trying to figure out the best way that we can show our class profile and show like what types of tests our students are submitting, because I know that is helpful for folks as they're going down the testing path. But basically, I would say submit the test you're going to do the best on. If you take a test multiple times, submit all the scores. We're going to pick the one that is going to aid you the most. And if you have a GMAT Classic test, I love that it's called the GMAT Classic. I think that's such a great name. Feel free to submit that. That's totally fine.
I actually feel very old every time someone says GMAT Classic, GMAT Legacy. I say, oh my God, that's the one I took.
It's kind of how I feel if there's anyone on the call that, applied to American schools for undergrad. They've changed the way the SAT is scored so many times. I don't even know what the scores mean anymore at the undergraduate level.
Exactly. That's the exact feeling. The next question we have here is from Adish. And he's asking, how does the university's Career Development Center support international students in overcoming potential employer biases regarding sponsorship? Additionally, what specific career and networking events are part of the program to aid international students?
Great question. So I will say, in terms of programming for international students at Stern, we have a very global community. We have many folks with double citizenship, and we have many folks that are international candidates as well. And we've had many of those folks go through the program, so we're very familiar with the unique needs and interests of our international community. Starting from orientation, there is an extra day devoted just to international candidates where we talk a little bit about, maybe this is your first time living in the US, maybe this is your first time moving to New York. What are some differences in how recruiting in the United States looks like compared to potentially your home country? And we make sure that our Ignite programming, which is essentially just our careers programming for our brand new MBA students, we make sure that, things like networking and what you're supposed to wear and how you contact companies, how you set up coffee chats, those can be very, very different from country to country. And so we do give a broad overview, not just for how recruiting works in the US, but maybe you're interested in returning to your home country or returning to a different country. And we kind of walk you through your options there. In our Career Development Center, we call it our careers team. There are folks that are specifically dedicated to supporting international candidates. And what they'll do at the beginning of your time at Stern is they'll sit down with you one-on-one and say, hey, so what industry are you looking to go into? What function are you looking to go into? Where would you love to live next summer during your internship or after the MBA? And we actually, from working closely with the companies that we work with, we have a pretty clear idea of what companies are very open and willing to sponsor visas for international candidates, and which companies, maybe it's a startup and they just don't have as many resources, which companies might be a bit tougher of a pivot. I would also say one of the perks of attending Stern is because the community is so global, we have 105,000 alumni in like 170 countries. So if you have an interest in staying in the US, there's probably I know there's definitely international candidates that have made the leap into consulting, tech, banking, finance, startups, retail, all of those industries. There's someone that's been in your shoes before. And speaking to that EQ piece, alumni at Stern really go out of their way to making sure that everyone goes down their journey in the way they'd like to.
So the next question we have here is from Abhilash, and he's asking if the MBA program at Stern is case-centered or lecture-based.
Great question, because it's all of it. So there are some classes that will follow the case method. There are some classes that will be lecture-based. There are classes like those experiential learning classes I'm talking about, where most of the learning is going to be through your hands-on learning. I'm thinking about like our Michael Price Investment Fund. There's a couple lectures on what investing looks like. And then we give you a little bit of our endowment money and we have you go into the stock market and have a go, right? So it really, I think one of the best parts about Stern is the flexibility in our curriculum. If you love the case method, you could theoretically structure your MBA around the case method. If you want more experiential learning, you can do more of that.
Amazing. So the next question here from Hichika is, how many years of work experience are required for the 2-year classic full-time MBA program?
The classic MBA. I love that description. So for all of our full-time MBA programs, there is no minimum or maximum work experience required to apply. The real question is, are you ready for the MBA? Like, is now your time? Like, are you ready to go? And what is your MBA experience going to look like? I will say though, folks generally do like to have some sort of work experience before they start the MBA. just because it allows you to kind of like reflect on what you're like in the workplace, and maybe it gives you, just like a little bit more of a foundation of what you're looking for after the MBA as well, just having that experience. But it doesn't need to be full-time work experience. It can be internships. It can be part-time work. It can be student work that you maybe did during your undergraduate degree. And so everyone's journey looks a little different, but there is no specific requirement.
The next one that we have here comes from Arushi, and she's asking, how do you analyze the EQ of an applicant via essays and recommendation letters?
So the way that we analyze the EQ of an applicant, so I'm going to talk about these just a little bit separately. So with our recommendation letters, we call them EQ endorsements, and we ask a bunch of EQ focused questions at your supervisor or the person who is writing your EQ endorsement. So we're asking them a lot of questions about how do you respond to feedback? How does the person you're writing about compare to their peers? How does the person you're writing about, what's their biggest accomplishment at work? What's the nature of your relationship with them? And so that's kind of like the EQ endorsement recommendation letter piece. I will say, you don't have a lot of control over what they're going to say, right? And so you are welcome to have a conversation with your endorser before they sit down and write your EQ endorsement. Obviously, you can't write it for them, but you can talk to them a little bit about your MBA journey and what you're looking to get out of it. And I think, generally like the strongest EQ endorsements are from folks that know you really well and are able to speak pretty persuasively on your behalf. So don't go for the title of someone, go for someone who knows you well. In terms of the essay piece, we're really looking at, again, like what is your career pathway going to look like through Stern? And then also, how do you approach change? Is change something that scares you? Tell us a time when you've had to, approach, navigate change in your own life. We just find time and time again from recruiters that the reason folks come and recruit at Stern and recruit Stern students is they can plop them in the middle of a company that could be on fire. Not saying that that's what's going to happen, but Stern students have a unique way of being able to navigate things when, they're unexpected. And so that's what we're kind of looking for in that essay.
Moving on to the next question. We just had one, Mila, regarding the minimum work experience that might be required. So we have one on the opposite end. How do you look at profiles with work experience on the higher end, let's say 10 years? And what advice would you give to such applicants? That's from Shirag.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've had folks that have come to Stern with 13, 14, 15 years of full-time work experience. And I think those folks, there's a lot of potential reasons for why they're maybe doing their MBA a little later in life. Maybe they were going down a career path that they felt was potentially not for them, right? And so they're just, making a pivot later in life, and that's totally fine. I think folks with a little bit more work experience, being able, again, explain why now is the time for the MBA and what you're looking to get out of the MBA. We've had folks that I'm thinking of someone who just graduated who was a high school chemistry teacher for 10 years and decided they wanted to go back to their MBA and make a bit of a career pivot. And so the way they kind of structured their application and the way they kind of structured their MBA is they said, hey, these are the transferable skills that I've gained. I've spent a lot of time doing this, but this is why I'm ready for my next adventure. And I think that applies whether you have 0 years of work experience or 10, 15, 20, If we do I will say we have 2 sections in the application for you to talk about your work experience, the resume and then the application itself. With the resume, I would say use that space, try and make it 1 page and brag about yourself. Cherry pick those accomplishments that you are the most proud of, that make you seem the strongest on paper and, maybe what you spend most of your time doing. In the actual application itself, we ask you to list out all of the work experience you've ever done. And you can use that space to maybe, talk a little bit more about what the company you worked for actually did, or maybe an internship that you did briefly, but, it's not something that's super recent or relevant for you. brag about yourself on the resume, be thorough on the application.
So I do have a curiosity, Mila, that I have to ask you. Is this person who you just mentioned, the chemistry teacher, going to Washington, D.C. to work in consulting?
I know they're going into consulting, but I don't know where. But I do know
his name start with a D?
Yes, it does.
It's such a small road. Part of we're going to the same company to work, so
amazing.
we did part of our summer internship training together. And when you mentioned NYU chemistry teacher, I said, "Oh my god,
I think that's also one of the best parts about Stern is like because we recruit from all over the world in all industries. We do have folks that were chemistry teachers. We've had folks that were butchers. We've had opera singers. We've had Broadway performers. We've had professional soccer and basketball players. And we've had folks that have worked in finance for 10 years and are looking to move up in the finance industry. So the community you're around is going to be very unique and different. And you're going to be in a classroom with a lot of folks with a lot of different types of experiences.
No, that's truly amazing. And regarding this whole experience on campus, we have a question here from Asha, and she's asking, what are some of the most common extracurricular activities that students participate in both on and off campus?
So I do think, obviously, people will explore New York City. They will eat the food. They will visit the Empire State Building. They'll visit the Statue of Liberty. They'll go to a New York Knicks basketball game or a Yankees baseball game. A bunch of our tech and fashion and luxury students went to a Yankee game, I think, last week, and then they went to a Broadway show. So there's a lot of different, if you want it, New York City probably has it. In terms of what's happening on campus, I think a lot of folks do those New York City experiences with each other, and they do that through our affinity and our like fun clubs. So our affinity clubs are clubs that are dedicated around a certain type of background, but they're open to everyone. So we have like Asian Business Society, Association of Hispanic and Black Business Students, Stern Women in Business, and those clubs will do professional programming. So they'll I'm thinking about like our Asian Founders series, where folks of Asian descent and from South and Southeast Asia and East Asia, they came to Stern and spoke about what it was like being an Asian founder of a company. So that's a professional programming. But then they also will go to like a Japanese tea house and do like a Japanese tea ceremony for fun as well. And so that's how a lot of students will hang out and have fun with each other. We also have a lot of like quote unquote fun clubs. So Stern Hoops is our basketball club. If you're really interested in basketball, we always play, each year we'll play against Columbia Business School's basketball club, and we'll play at Barclays or at Madison Square Garden, the two big arenas in New York City. So that's always really fun. We have an adventures club, which will do a bunch, they'll get off campus, they'll go hiking, they'll go skiing, they'll do stuff like that. There's a wine tasting club. So basically, if you want it, we have it. And if we don't have it, you can make it.
Amazing. The next question we have here comes from Aditya. And the question is, may I know this year's placement report? Also, do you offer application fee waiver and scholarships?
Yes. So with our employment report, I'm assuming you're talking about our employment report and not our class profile. So our employment report will be available sometime in the early fall, and that will be talking about the internships of the class of 2025 and the full-time placement, career placement of the class of 2024. So I would say look out in the fall for that. In terms of our application fee waivers, you are able to apply for an application fee waiver on our website. If you go to the application section, there's an entire page dedicated to it. There's quite a few reasons you might qualify for an application fee waiver. Maybe it's financial need. Maybe you participated in something like Teach for America, Teach for India. Maybe you served in a military. So there's lots of ways to qualify for an application fee waiver. In terms of scholarships and financial aid, we offer merit-based scholarships to our students, and those are offered at the time of admission. So it's pretty nice because you'll know if you've been accepted to Stern, and you'll have all the financial information you need right away to make the best decision for you. I would say our scholarships are pretty robust. So they range between about half tuition and full tuition. and about 20 to 25% of students receive some form of scholarship. If you don't receive a scholarship, or if it's not as large as you like, our Office of Financial Aid will work with you to navigate paying for the MBA. And there are opportunities to receive tuition remission, perhaps by working an on-campus job or doing an in-semester internship, something like that.
And still on that financial aid aspect, we got a question from Maji asking here, is there financial aid which is specific to international students for the full-time MBA?
Yes, so plenty of international students will receive those merit-based scholarships that I was just speaking about. I would also say if you go to our website, the financial aid section of our website, you can see the types of scholarships that we give. So for example, we do have a scholarship, or it's like a sponsorship from an alum who cares deeply about like increasing access for folks from East Asia. And so for folks that, have a deep interest in, returning to East Asia after their MBA and working in business there is a specific scholarship dedicated to someone who would fit that interest. We also have scholarships that go to folks that are interested in like advancing women in business, folks that, maybe are dedicated to going into a specific industry. Maybe someone's wants to work in like the nonprofit industry. So look at the types of scholarships that we offer, see if any really make sense for you. Or if you align with any of them. And then I would try and maybe incorporate what that scholarship stands for into your application, because your application is what we're using to kind of make decisions based on scholarships.
So in these last few minutes here, I think we do have time for one or two more questions. And one of them, Mila, is one that I know many people have. Is low undergrad GPA going to be a deal breaker?
No, it's not a deal breaker. We know that you can't control your undergraduate GPA, especially if you're out of school. And also that might have been a while ago for you. There are ways to demonstrate your academic readiness beyond your GPA. That can be through a standardized test score. It can be through the work experience you do now. It can be through an additional certification. Maybe you take a bunch of LinkedIn courses. Those are all ways that you can demonstrate your academic readiness for Stern. I would also say we have an optional essay in the back of our application, and it's truly optional. But if there's anything you want to share with us, like maybe you had, maybe you didn't get along with a professor in undergrad, or maybe, you were dealing with some health issues, or, maybe it just wasn't, the best demonstration of your readiness. Use that optional essay. It's truly optional, but just don't keep us guessing.
Thank you so much, Mila. And one last question that we have here from Jean. And he's asking, could you explain NYU's dual MBA program with AGC Paris?
Yes, absolutely. This is one of my favorite things to talk about. Obviously, NYU is a gigantic school, and we have a lot of connections all over the world. And so we have a bunch of dual degrees that we offer. Each dual degree is very specific. So for example, we have our JD MBA. That's if you want to get a law degree and an MBA at the same time. I would say the biggest piece of advice I would give is make sure, if you're interested in applying to these programs, make sure you're going on our website, you're looking at the dual degree website, because both schools are going to have different requirements for the application, and you want to make sure you're following both of those timelines. In terms of our dual degree or our dual MBA with HEC Paris, it's a really, really unique opportunity where you do get to study at NYU Stern, and then you also get to study at HEC. From my understanding of the program, our website probably has a lot more information to speak about it, but you can either begin the dual degree at NYU Stern, complete like your core classes at Stern, and then do your second year, move into your second year at HEC. You can also, I believe, choose, depending on where you want to start. I would say this program is especially great for folks that are interested in, maybe developing more of a global understanding of business. Maybe they want to work in Europe. Maybe they want to, work in France, or maybe just understand like European markets. And I think the folks that go through it is a pretty small program, but the folks that go through it, I've spoken with an alum of the program, and they they had an amazing experience. And they had friends from Stern come visit them in Paris while they were studying there, which they appreciated.
Thank you so much, Mila, once again for all the answers. And if you all want to keep chatting with NYU Stern, remember that from 2 p.m. Eastern till 3, we're going to have the networking session at the booth. So feel free to go there and interact with current students from Stern. And any final words you would like to say, Mila, to people watching us?
Yeah, just thank you so much for your thoughtful questions. If you are interested in connecting with us further, I'm available on LinkedIn. You're obviously welcome to email us or call our office. And I'm just wishing you best of luck with your MBA journeys.
Thank you so much once again, Mila. Thank you so much, everyone watching us, and see you all in some next session, be it today or tomorrow. Bye.
Take care, folks.